الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه لعلكم تفلحون. إنما يريد الشيطان أن يوقع بينكم العداوة والبغضاء في الخمر والميسر ويصدكم عن ذكر الله وعن الصلاة فهل أنتم منتهون. وأطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول واحذروا فإن توليتم فإنما على رسولنا البلاغ المبين. صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الحبيب الكريم، ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين، والحمد لله رب العالمين. A while ago we began mentioning about the fitnas of Dajjal that we will see in our time. We made special mention of the beginning, that every single person has to learn to deny whatever the eye sees. We have to negate and we have to have yaqeen on what Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has promised, what Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has said. And no matter what luxury and happiness we find in front of us in the smiling faces of the enemies of Islam and of those people who have sold their lives to shaitan, there must be so much yaqeen within our heart that wallah, this person got no happiness. Hazrat Maulana Abdul Hamid Sahib Damud Barakatuh used to always give an example that a man is standing on the train platform, and as the train goes past, then the first class coach that passes him, he sees in there a man, and next to that man is a waitress, and she is taking his menu or the food that he wants, and she is offering him this and she is offering him that. Whatever you want, you will get. Any meal that you want, you can enjoy. The man can have chicken, the man can have soup, the man can have mutton. It's a non-Muslim, he can have pork, he can have wine, whatever he wants. A beautiful woman next to him. It's as if this man is the richest man, the most happiest man in the world. So he thinks to himself how fortunate that man is. He's traveling first class, whatever he wants he can get. And as that first class coach goes past, and the second and third, then when that third class comes, and then he sees a man there on that, and there is hardly any seats for the person to stand on. There is no door that will prevent the man from falling out. The man is holding on for his life, and there are many bags around that man. He's trying with one hand to keep the bags from falling. With the other hand, he's trying to hold himself onto the train. He's trying to chase away the flies that are irritating him. He can see perspiration coming down his face. And then he thinks that if there is anyone who is in more sorrowful state in the world, it is this man. He got no place to sit. He got no food to eat. He got no one to help him with his bags. It is hot in the area that he is. So he says, this is the reality of what we see in our life. We see many people traveling first class and we think that really these people are happy. And we see many people looking from an outside perspective that they are suffering in life. But if you have to go and ask those people, what's the condition of your heart? Then that man in the first class will say that he has been found guilty of a certain murder. And a judgment has been passed that he will be sent to a certain state where he'll be executed for the murder of so and so. So this is his final meal that he is having. And as the train is moving and passing every station, and the woman is telling him, what more do you want to eat? What more do you want to eat? And his stomach is saying, I don't want anything. Because with every second coming, he knows that my death is now coming in front of me. So with all the luxuries around him, if you ask that man in his heart, how are you feeling? He's feeling like the most miserable man in the world. But from the outside, you can't see it. And if you ask the other man who's suffering in that third class, that how do you feel? And he says that with every second passing, I'm getting more happier. Because I have come from a journey very, very many months ago I left. And now I'm finally returning home. And in these bags, I have bought presents for all the people of my family. And they will be waiting at the station for me. And as soon as this train stops, then my luxury will start, my happiness will start. So no matter whether this fly is flying around me and perspiration coming down my face, whether I am dying to hold on to my bags and to save my life, I know with every second that's coming, soon this train is going to come to a stop, and there all my problems will come to an end. The reality of life is like this. We see many people with a smile on their face, and with luxuries surrounding them, but if you ask their heart, how is the heart? That heart will say that it's waiting for death. And one poet says, and after death comes and in the qabr you don't find happiness, then what? So many things in this world that we see is all a lie. So the first thing we mentioned, we have to have yaqeen, so much yaqeen that whatever we see around us is all a lie. The second thing we mentioned is that the enemy of Islam have used women as their main weapon. An-nisa'u haba'ilu shaitan. Women have been made the traps of shaitan. And for many, many reasons. And we explained how a man will have to look after his gaze. Whether you go outside and you see a picture of a nude woman, or whether in the magazines, or whether in the newspapers, or whether in the shops, man will have to hold himself. And although it is not easy, but wallah, it is easier than falling into the trap. Because once you fall into the trap, to come out is very, very difficult. Sometimes look at a spider web, how beautiful that web looks, how enticing it looks. There's a certain spider that it makes a web, but that web is like see-through. And then that spider, it makes itself in the night hang and swing from side to side. And as it starts swinging, it resembles the female beetle. So when the male beetle from a distance sees the sight, it thinks that this is a female beetle which is calling me. And the thing has a desire to go and mate. And the spider starts swinging from side to side, until that male beetle from very far has complete conviction that this is a female, nothing else. And that web is blocking between the spider and that male beetle. And as that male beetle then flies into the web, it finally realizes it was a trap. Thereafter, if you ever have the chance to see how that male beetle now tries to get out of that web, and the more effort it makes to try and get out, the more the web of the spider starts going around it. And the spider happily on the top is just watching that whole thing. The more the thing pushes, the more the thing becomes tight. The more effort that is made to come out, the more it realizes it's losing the match. When man falls in the trap of shaitan, it's like this. The more man wants to get out after that, he just finds that from every direction things are happening. He's running in this direction, problem, that direction, problem. So women have been made the traps of shaitan, man will have to control himself. In today's bayan, what I want to speak about, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala in the Quran has mentioned, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O people of Iman, innamal khamru wal maisir. That liquor and gambling, this is from the filth of shaitan. If you abstain from it, you will find success. And if you fall into it, you will see that shaitan, through it, will take you very far from Allah's remembrance. Liquor. Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the ahadith mentioned, Kullu muskirin khamrun. That do not think of liquor which is mentioned in the hadith as the wine bottle. When we were small, we were told so much about pig and liquor, that when we grow up, the nafrat and the hatred for pig is in our heart to such an extent that if a pig just walks in front, we all feel filthy. And if you see a person with a wine bottle in his hand, you will think, hey, what are you doing? Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do not restrict it to a wine bottle. Every intoxicant is part of khamr. And it's a duty of a parent that you must make it so much in the mind of your child. Drugs is haram, drugs is filthy, drugs is dirty. So when that child grows up, how he feels a pig to be dirty, he finds drugs to be just as filthy. This is an era of what we mentioned, the fitnas of Dajjal. Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned before Qiyamah, intoxicants will be rife. It will not be hard to buy, it will not be hard to get. there will hardly be much penalties for purchasing it. If there is laws that the police will catch you, even those police themselves will be involved in that very same act. One person, after leaving drugs, someone asked him that why don't you spy about those people who are supplying you the drugs, so that at least that whole institute can come to an end. So he mentioned one friend of his tried to spy. After giving up drugs, he went to the police station and he mentioned, I get my drugs from so-and-so quarters. So they took down the notes, he went home. Most likely this person was part of those people who saw to the death of that person after that. He says that friend had hardly reached home when the house was surrounded by the drug lords of that area. After taking him out from his house and telling him that why did you mention our names, they took him to a certain warehouse, meaning from the police station they got the news already. They took him to a certain warehouse, they tied him upside down, and then when they drilled, they started making holes through his legs. So most likely this person was there and he noticed this whole thing, he witnessed it. Until that man finally died in front of them. And they gave it as a message to everyone else who was with them, that if anyone speaks, this is what will happen to you. Trying to say that there is no way the police can stop us because the police are part of the whole thing. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala says in the Quran, there is no police needed to stop you. It is the fear of your Creator. Every intoxicant is haram, whether it's made permissible in the country or not. There are many countries in the world nowadays, they have drug houses, where with the permission of the government you can go and take your drugs and it is legal. Recently they have spoken about in South Africa, in the next 4 to 5 years they want to bring these houses here also. So that instead of a person taking it illegally, he rather go and take it legally. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala says in the Quran, this is from the filth of shaitan, do not fall into it. There is one incident which I have mentioned already to some students, I will mention it again, to try and understand what happens when we fall in it. In a book called Qisasun Mu'athiratun Lishabab, stories which will spur or amaze the youth, there is one incident which is called Qataltu Akhi, I killed my brother. A boy from Jeddah, after obviously the whole incident, he is writing the story, he narrated it and someone is writing for it in the Arabic language, his whole waqiyah. He says that when he was at the age of 13, his father allowed him to go to Abyssinia because he had got very high marks in his exams. So he went in the company of his uncle, Habsha, Abyssinia. So while he was moving around with his uncle, he found that his uncle is a person who's addicted to the bottle. And only in Jeddah he doesn't drink because of the laws of the country. But as soon as he leaves the country, he starts drinking. So after noticing the pleasure on his uncle's face, he decided to take a few sips. He says, although initially it tasted very filthy, but when I tried again and again, then in that holiday of 2 months, he became addicted to the bottle. He says, imagine my age was only 13, but I was drinking whatever I could get. When we landed in Jeddah, I began thinking how to get hold of another bottle. But after about 3 to 4 weeks, I realized that it's very difficult here. The laws are very severe. I finally gave it up. Age of 13. 4 years later, he said, my father took me to Europe for the summer holidays. As soon as we landed and I saw those bottles on the shelf, that desire came back again. This is the fitna of what you call the dirt of shaitan. That once you taste it, it goes in the bottom of your heart. That desire is just waiting to be fulfilled again. And drugs is just as bad. He says, so he would go out with his cousin at night and they would enjoy the beers on the streets of Europe. Until one night after taking a couple of drinks, he saw his cousin was taking a sniff of what he later on found out was called black hashish. So he asked this cousin, what is this? He said, this is that which will take you in the heavens and take you for a flight around the world. He said, something like this, how can you do? And the person said, try it, snuff it. And one snuff was all that it needed. He said, I felt myself in a different world. But these things, when they take you up to the heavens with that helicopter or with that aeroplane or with that jet, when it brings you back, it brings you with a crash also. And that's what happened to him. He crashed after that. During that summer holidays in Europe, he became addicted to hashish. Now when he went back to Jeddah, where to get it? But he said the desire of the drug was not like the desire of the liquor. That liquor, I managed to leave it for 4 years. As a drug, he could not leave it. By hook and by crook, he managed in somehow and the other to get it in Jeddah. Whatever money had to be spent was being spent on it. Until all his money now came to an end. And his condition of life became such that forget his studies and his grades in school, even at home he used to look at everyone as though this person knows my secret. He said, I began to suspect everyone that they have something in it. in their heart for me. Everyone got a dagger for me. And I started keeping away. My brother, who was extremely close to me, he would ask me, what's wrong? And I would just get irritated, upset with him and tell him, mind your own business and stay in my own corner. This is where you go into that spider web. And the more you try and come out of the spider web, the more it starts closing on you. So finally, when he decided to give up this filthy habit, he felt that the only way is to go to some friend of his who can advise him how to get out. He reaches his friend's house. He says, perhaps it was after about 4 or 5 years meeting this friend. And the friend says, where have you been so long? He explains his whole story. And some people in the guise of man, they are actually shaitan. So this friend was one of those shayateen. He went to the wrong house. But this is that trap of shaitan, that web of the spider. The more you try to come out, the more you see things coming on top of you. So he relates his whole incident to his friend. His friend says that I got the solution for you to take you out of all your problems. And it is nothing long. It is no real effort. It will be 1 or 2 minutes and no problem after that. He says, can you get me out of it so quickly? He says, no problem. Out of the addiction of hashish, I promise to get you out. He says, how? He says, close your eyes, lift up your sleeve and I'll show you what I can do. And he's wondering what is going to happen. But when man is in the trap of that spider, then he gives anything. So he closes his eyes, he opens his sleeve, and that man had an injection of heroin. And he injects him. He promised him to take him out of the addiction of hashish. He took him out. He says, from the pot into the fire. He felt that heroin 1 second, and it said where and where he took him, that he never needed to go back to hashish after that. He was now addicted to heroin. He says, but heroin was such a drug that if you don't take it, not only is there a desire to go back, your body starts aching and paining. Every lump of his body was screaming, I need the drug, I can't manage the pain. Whatever money he could now borrow from his brother, from his sister, from his uncle, was borrowing, promising to pay later. He says, until one night when I gave up, I said, I cannot manage anymore, I need the thing no matter what. I entered the room of my mother, it was 3 o'clock in the morning, my father had gone on journey. And while opening her drawers to find her jewelry, and I pulled out some of whatever there was, my mother woke up, and she saw a form in the room. She began screaming. My younger brother from the other room, hearing the scream, he ran, and I met him at the door. The lights were off, we began fighting. Although he was smaller than me, he managed to catch me from behind. And in my mind, I'm thinking now, if the light goes on and they see that it is me, then my whole story will come out. So I felt around for my knife. And not thinking, I just had to release myself, I pushed it into the heart of my brother. As soon as he left the house, there was a police car patrolling. It was Jeddah. They managed to catch him very quickly. The next day, his mother was called that we caught the thief. The boy was rushed to hospital. On the way, he passed away. Qataltu akhi, I killed my brother. It says, when his mother reached the police station the next day, she realized she never lose one son that night. She lost 2 sons. One was lost to the jails or to the prisons, and one was lost because of drugs. So the person writing the incident says, although this boy was not killed, he was regarded as a mental patient. He was taken to hospital for treatment, put in a mad hospital. That's why he was able to relate the story. But the person writing it says, sufficient as punishment for him will be that he has to stay the rest of his life with the remembrance that that boy who used to eat and who used to sleep and who gave his whole, put his entire trust in his brother and felt the closest that he could be to anyone in the world was his brother. That boy will one day be told by the angels that very same brother killed you. So he says, this is qataltu akhi. Once you fall in the trap of that spider, you don't come out. My brother Maulana Musa narrated this story to me after that. He said that another waqia he read, it's also in the Arab world, because drugs hits everyone, whether there's laws of the country, whether there's no laws of the country. This person's story was qataltu akhi, I killed my brother. That incident was, I wish I could kill myself. Go to a drug rehabilitation center and ask the people their house things, and you will see what their stories are. Wealthy people, healthy people, good people, intelligent people, one drug and everything is lost. Min amali shaitan, the filth of shaitan, the stool of shaitan, and we want to lick it up. So he says, I wish I could kill myself. He narrates his story like this, that because he was hooked onto drugs, he would come back at night very, very late until one night his sister caught him. And his sister told him, if you don't give this thing up immediately, I will have to spy you out to mommy and daddy. So he goes back to his friends who were supplying him the drugs, and he tells them, my sister caught me, what must I do? They tell him that if she spies us out in a country like this here, we will all get the death penalty. You must do something about it. Either you kill her, or you take the pill and you just drop it in her tea. He asks, what's this pill? He says, just one drug. So he says, I can't get my sister hooked onto drugs. His sister was extremely chaste. She had not spoken to any boy. She was extremely intelligent in school. But when they pressurized him and they told him this is the only way out, he decided finally, he took that thing while discussing with his sister over the table that when he will give up his drugs, he put that one pill in her tea. And after she drank it, she went into the world which he was visiting every day with his drugs. When she got sober again and she came back and she asked what happened, then he said, that's the very same thing, I can't live. An-nisa'u haba'ilu shaitan. Women are the traps of shaitan. The reason is because Allah Pak has created women much more weaker than men. If a girl gets caught in haram, if a girl loses her modesty, if a girl has to take a drug, for her to leave that thing is about 30 to 40 times harder than a boy leaving it. Now she was hooked onto drugs. So even though he never needed the drugs so often, she was pressurizing him, now here's money from me, go and get that thing. She had a lot of wealth with her. And she started spending, and he and her would take it left, right and center. Until a time came when he saw his sister losing everything. She was losing her marks in school. Her face was becoming like a person who's looking like an old woman. He could see his sister is not right. He felt very bad that he put his sister in this problem. But again, this web of the spider, as you make that effort to get out, it just closes. So he told his sister that we have to leave that thing. His sister said, I need this thing. He said, we got no money left. He said, no matter, let's go up to that person and ask him, give us a loan, give us something. We need that drug, I need it. When they come to that person and his sister is begging, I need it no matter what. So the person, seeing the beauty of this girl, he says that if you give me your sister for one night, I will give you the drug for free. He says he said, over my dead body. And he took his sister and he told her, we have to leave this thing no matter what. And his sister promised him, she'll leave it. He promised his sister, he stopped. But a girl is very, very weak. 30 to 40 times harder for a girl to leave haram than a boy. He managed to leave it. And his sister thereafter told the father that her grades in school had dropped very low. She needs to do extra studies. She started taking out extra money from the father. She started coming home later at night because of extra tuition. And many months like this passed. One day when he finally gave up again, the desire was too much and he said, I have to get that drug. He reached that person's house at night. He knocked at the door, his sister opened the door. And she was dressed in such clothing that he understood there and there that she had sold her body over to this man. That itself, that sight was sufficient to turn him away from the door and go back home. That whole night he's speaking to himself, shouting himself, what have you done? Where she was and what became of her. She was not going for tuition, she was not doing extra subjects, she was spending her nights by that man. When she had money, she would buy the drug. When she had no money, she would sell herself. So that night he decides that now and now I'll have to mention the whole incident to my parents. This must come to an end. And that morning when he's trying to say to his father something, they get a phone call. The father has been phoned that your daughter has been involved in a car crash with another man. And you have to come and identify the body. His sister passed away with that haram man in that haram condition, intoxicated. So this person, he ends this waqiyah like this. He says, Oh Allah, that instead of my sister being put in Jahannam, please put me there. Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in a hadith mentioned that person who dies in an intoxicated state will come in front of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala like the man who worshipped idols. Khamru wal maysiru wal ansabu wal azlam. Liquor, gambling, and then idols. This is the filth of shaitan. But first is intoxicants. It's from the filth of shaitan. It's one time you taste it and thereafter everything is gone. One taste and everything is gone. And everyone gets hit. It just needs one taste. It can be your mother, it can be your sister, it can be your brothers. One taste and everything is gone. Only the fear of Allah can look after a person. One person left this drug. So he narrated his incident of why he left it to someone. He says he met a certain girl in the rave and they became very, very close. Finally she invited him to the house. He was amazed that the father of the house was the man who was known to do the tabligh work of that area. The girl was in parda. But once you taste that thing, finished. So he went inside, the mother opened, the mother was in parda. He asked the girl, your mother doesn't mind me speaking? She said, my mother is not so strict, my father is strict. After a while, the father went for 4 months in Jamaat. The girl sent a message, come over to the house now. When he reached the house, forget the girl not in parda, the mother was not in parda. Forget the girl snuffing drugs, the mother was snuffing drugs. He spent the rest of the 3 months in that house with that mother and that girl. Allah Pak knows what happened in there. After 3 months, that mother told him, now you must go, my husband will be coming back after 1 month. Most likely it was the shock of that day that he met one Jamaat and they took him out in Jamaat, he changed his life. So someone asked him, why don't you go and tell? He said, how do I go and tell that family? But this is not 1 or 2 families, it's one snuff that a person takes. You might take the drug one time and tell your sister so she can come on your side, take a snuff and forget it. After that, what will happen will make you cry. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala says, فَانْتَهُوا فَهَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُنْتَهُونَ. That, O Ummah of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when will you stop? فَهَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُنْتَهُونَ وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ. That the only way you will come out of the traps of shaitan and you will save yourself is Allah and His Messenger's obedience. وَحْذَرُوا. Watch out if you don't obey Allah and His Messenger. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala will not get any harm if we take drugs. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala saying, you will destroy your dunya, your qabr and your akhirah. Qabr and akhirah will be destroyed, your own world will be destroyed. Ask any drug addict how his life and he will tell you he wishes to kill himself. Ask his wife how is life with your husband, she wants him out of the house. Ask those children in the house, how is your father, they don't want that father. He is selling everything just to fulfill that desire and he knows he just wants to get out. But once you got into that web just closes and closes upon you. Until finally that spider decides to come onto the web. When that beetle now loses all strength and can't fight anymore, then that spider starts walking. When man now is finally flat, then shaitan will finally make his final attack. And that's when that iman is snatched away. When that spider comes, that beetle can't fight, and it is one bite or one prick of that spider, and there the beetle's life goes. But that struggle before that killed the beetle before the spider even came. Just because the beetle saw the beauty of that spider moving around. And although that beetle must have been told many times by its mother, when you see that thing moving around, don't trust it. It's not a female beetle, it's a spider. But when he saw it, he forgot all the promises his mother had made to him. As long as that yaqeen is not there, that what I see is a lie, and man falls in it, once that net hits, النساء حبائل الشيطان, women are the traps of shaitan, these are the traps of shaitan, min amali shaitan. وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ وَاحْذَرُوا. Obey Allah and His Messenger, that's the only way, otherwise watch out. فَإِن تَوَلَّيْتُمْ. And if you are not ready to listen, فَإِنَّمَا عَلَى رَسُولِنَا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينَ. My Messenger has given his message. You will be destroying your dunya, your qabr and your akhirah. My Messenger, Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, has given his message over. May Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala protect us all. May Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala put it in the depths of our heart. Whatever filth we are involved in, whether it is drugs, whether it's haram woman, whether it's any other filthy thing, let us pull off. فَهَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُنْتَهُونَ. When will you stop? وَآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا